So if you want a better life, you have to begin to think better thoughts, because what you focus on is what you feel. Even if what you're focused on isn't even real, isn't even true, if you're still focused on it, it's still going to make you, it still can, if you think a sad thought, it can still bring you down. So that's why the first step is really the power of awareness and understanding the laws of the universe, and how to leverage them to become more conscious of the thoughts that you're thinking. And then when you are thinking a thought that doesn't serve you, you identify it and then you can turn it around.
Hey, Lucie Ptasznik, thank you for joining us today. Lucie, I want to get right into it because you're a transformation coach. You quit your corporate job so that you could start your passion of horses, right? But one thing that we've talked about before, or I've seen in your bio, was that you believe people can't manifest because they have limiting beliefs. And I want to know, what do you think the number one limiting belief is that people have that they don't know they have?
I think the number one limiting belief is that we don't believe that we're good enough. And it's that belief in ourself. We're constantly comparing ourselves to everybody around us, to what we see on social media. And it's just like a highlight of everybody's wins. And so therefore we're left feeling like we're not good enough, that we're not smart enough, that we're not attractive enough. And when we're constantly playing this comparison game, we're doing ourselves a huge disservice, because we're not giving ourselves credit for the beautiful gifts that we all have.
I like that. So, I mean, I don't like that for the people, but I think that's right, because, I do this to myself sometimes. I think my life's pretty great. Like, I have a pretty interesting life and do a lot of great stuff, but sometimes I see somebody doing something else and I'm like, oh, I could never do that. And I remember we had a guest on a long time ago that like was one of the most impressive people I've ever seen. And she said to me offline, like, oh, I'm just so impressed by you. And I was like, you have like gold medals, like literally have gold medals, and like climb to the highest point in Antarctica. And she's like, yeah, but you're impressive. And I'm like, it's like mind blowing, right? Because like the reality is we all suffer from this, no matter how much we work on ourselves, we still, there's always that next thing that we're like, well, I don't know, I'm not sure. So do you see that a lot in your life and in the people that you're dealing with?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think so we do what I like to teach people is the three fundamental pillars. And the first one is understanding energy, or managing, being able to control or manage your state as well as the state of others. And then the second thing is desire, and getting absolute clarity on around what it is that you want to create, experience, attract in life, because where your focus goes, energy flows. And so many of us are conditioned to focus on what we don't want, focus on the bad, focus on the negative. And in turn, we're stuck in this loop where we feel stuck because we keep creating more of the same negative or undesirable situation. And then the third pillar of the program is belief. And essentially, that's probably the most powerful of all three, because I like to say that belief bridges the gap from where you are to where you want to be. You can have a very in-depth understanding that everything's energy, your highest commodity is energy, that we live in an attraction-based universe, that thoughts become things. You can have absolute clarity on exactly what it is that you want to create, attract, experience. You can have a vision written out, but if you don't have the belief in yourself, if you don't believe that you're good enough, that you're worthy, that you will succeed, there will always be a vibrational discrepancy between where you're at and where you want to be, or what you have, and that distant future that's just out of reach. So belief is really rewiring your subconscious mind, to be able to, because like your outer world is nothing more than a perfect projection of your inner world. So once you understand that you don't have to you're either a default creator or a deliberate creator, meaning that if you're a default creator, you're letting your external circumstances, what you're choosing to focus on outside of you that you can't control, dictate how you feel internally, versus a deliberate creator which is really internalizing the emotions of the desire already achieved, of the wish fulfilled, and in embodying the energy of the thing that you wish to create, you're going to very effectively and very intentionally sculpt your 3D reality into a desirable experience.
Okay, so I want to unpack some of that because there are three pillars there. I'm going to take each one individually a little bit, and I'm gonna do something that might surprise both of you. So, first of all, Lucie, I don't know if you know this or not, but we met like 2019 at an event. I'm sure you remember that, like when
I
we first
do.
met. Lucie was kind enough to hear me speak at one of the first events I ever spoke at, actually. Maybe like the third or fourth time I'd ever spoken in public. And it was this great event up in Michigan where she lives.
I would have
And,
never known that was only your third or fourth time either.
oh, well, thank you. I mean, and she came up to me afterwards and she said to me, "You have such great energy." And I thought, that's weird. Like, that's a strange thing to say. But in the next several weeks after that, multiple people had said that same thing to me. And I actually think about you a lot because of that, because that moment meant a lot to me because it set me on a, this is right before I climbed Kilimanjaro. This is right before COVID. This is right before Last Life Ever was really a thing. Like, we hadn't started the podcast yet. We did have a Facebook group, but often in the last 5 years or so, I've thought about that exact moment when you said to me that you have great energy, and I was looking at you and thinking, like, I have nothing like the energy this girl has. I don't even know what she means by energy, but I was like, there's something about her that when I'm around her, I just felt good. Like, I couldn't identify it differently than that. So is that the kind of energy you're talking about in that first pillar?
Yes. So absolutely. I like to talk understanding the first pillar is really understanding the basis for quantum physics, or understanding that we live in an attraction based universe where we don't attract what we want, we attract what we are. And therefore, energy is the highest commodity that we have. The energy that we're embodying, as well as like how we're making other people feel. Like, there are people in our lives where we think about them, like they'll call us and be like, nope, not today, don't have time for that sob story. Or people that they call us and we're like, oh my God, we love this person because they're forward thinking, they're expressing ideas or using their imagination in positive, creative, exciting ways. And like, just the conversations we have with those people are uplifting and inspiring, and they remind us of our greatness. So it's all about, again, surrounding yourself with the type of people that are really going to elevate you to become the best version of yourself. So when we talk about really, what I like to do is help people access peak emotional states, because if we can understand that we are where we are today based on every single decision that we've made up until this point, we can very confidently say that decision shapes our destiny. So, what's the one thing that affects every single decision that we've ever made? It's our emotional state. So then we think about it and it's just like, well, when you're in a peak emotional state, when you feel passionate, when you feel on fire, when you feel like you can hurdle over any obstacle that's placed within your way, in your way, you are going to make radically different decisions versus when you're in a lower vibrational state, when you're experiencing stress, fear, lack, overwhelm, guilt. And so therefore, if we want to move towards the highest version of ourselves, if we want to collapse timelines and really take massive action towards our goals, we're going to have to set ourselves up for success. And by doing that is really understanding how to manage our state. And so that's the first thing. Is I like to give people a full toolbox of different strategies and tools that will take the first piece is really awareness, because all change is preceded by awareness. We can't change what we're unaware of. And so many of us are conditioned. We're conditioned by our past, by our parents' beliefs, any sort of traumas that we may have lived through. And so this conditioning essentially has really formed our belief system or our paradigm. And our belief system or our paradigm is really is why we are where we are today. Our life is a perfect projection of our belief system. Your life is the perfect projection of the thoughts that you think. Like the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the thoughts that you think. And so we can't, again, going back to awareness, you can't change what you're unaware of. So if you want a better life, you have to begin to think better thoughts, because what you focus on is what you feel. Even if what you're focused on isn't even real, isn't even true, if you're still focused on it, it's still going to make you, it still can, if you think a sad thought, it can still bring you down. So that's why the first step is really the power of awareness and understanding the laws of the universe, and how to leverage them to become more conscious of the thoughts that you're thinking. And then when you are thinking a thought that doesn't serve you, you identify it and then you can turn it around. And in doing that with repetition, you will begin to see shifts in your life. Well, things will just start to work out, doors of opportunities will open, and miracles will begin to manifest.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, the second pillar then is the desire, like clarity pillar, right? I don't know exactly what you called it, but it was something along those
Desire,
lines.
yes.
Yeah, and when you're talking about that, is it just like, um, you see this in like self-help literature all the time, right? Whether it be like a vivid vision or writing your goals down and repeating them over and over again. Is that what we're talking about, or is there more to that than that?
That's like the basic surface level, and then it's really understanding how come, your obsessions become your possessions, and you have to know with absolute clarity what it is that you want, in order to figure out a roadmap to get you there. And a lot of times people will spend more time, more effort planning out a vacation that they're going to go on for a week versus cultivating a beautiful vision for their life, for their business. And a lot of times, again, like we're surrounded in a distracted society where we've got the news and the TV, and it's all doom and gloom and sadness and fear. And again, where our focus goes, our energy flows. So a lot of times, like, I love asking people, if you could have life the way you wanted, if you had unlimited resources and money were of no concern, what would your life look like? And like the almost automatically people begin to list out every single thing that they don't want. Well, I wouldn't want this, I wouldn't want this, I don't want that, I don't like this. And it's like, well, you see, that's the thing. It's like contrast will bring clarity. However, when you're too focused on the contrast or the thing that doesn't serve you or doesn't please you, you're just going to continue to bring about and attract more of that into your life. So that's why it's really training your mind, training your focus to look for the good. So when you take the time, and yes, it takes time, it takes intention, to write out your goals, whether you're writing them out every week, every month. I like to do monthly intentions. I feel like it's a very powerful process, that I take a lot of my students through. And you write this out, and then you're reading it every single day. And when you're reading it every single day, you're activating your RAS, your reticular activating system. So for anybody who might not know or might not be familiar with what that means, it's if I ask you, hey, how many red cars did you see today on your drive home? You'd probably be like, I don't know, a couple here and there. I don't know. I wasn't looking for them. But tomorrow, when I ask you, how many cars did you see on your ride home? I saw 26, because why? You were looking for them. You were paying attention. And so same thing, when you have your vision written out with clarity and in details and excitement and desire, you read that out, you're looking for it, you're activating your RAS, and it puts you in the receiving mode. So therefore, when those opportunities present themselves, you actually see them. You're in a place to receive them. And that can make a world of a difference. So that's why it's so important to know what you want, because then you're able to step into a place to like see the opportunity when it presents itself to you.
Yeah, I think that's actually really. I actually, when I talk, I often mention the reticular activated system, because but I like your way of describing it better. I'm always like, when you get a new car and now you notice them everywhere or something, it's like your subconscious mind defaults to the familiar, and that's really what you're talking about. It's like you're in this situation where if you're refreshing those goals constantly and you're like living in it. One of our former guests, Jamil Sayed, he always says, who you're being matters, like how you show up matters. And I think that's really what you're talking about. It's like decide who you want to be and then go be that person.
Yes,
And that's where you get that
absolutely.
clarity. So then we talk about belief, and I mean this the way you were describing it earlier, it reminds me of the Henry Ford quote, right? The whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. Like it doesn't matter. Like, and I used to think that was kind of weird when I first heard it, but I think these things layer into your subconscious over time. And now it's one of my favorite quotes. The first time I was like, that's stupid. If I think I could fly, like I wouldn't be able to fly. But the reality is that that's like a surface level objection, because what he's really saying is like, if you really truly believe something, you can figure out a way to make it happen. And we know that's true because people do fly now. They do it in planes and helicopters and stuff like that. They didn't before, right? Like somebody had to believe it was possible for that to happen.
Absolutely. No,
So
I
anyway,
love that
what do you
quote.
think about? Go ahead, Jillian.
I have a quick question. I want to go back to something you said about your energy being your greatest commodity, which I think is that's going to be my mantra now. I'm going to think about that. Your energy is your greatest commodity, so I can bring the proper energy to certain situations or life situations. But keeping that in mind and thinking about the state that we're in now, a lot of people are disenfranchised. What's something they can do right away to change their energy so that their greatest commodity is the commodity they actually want? They have gold instead of methane, or something like
Yeah.
that.
So that's a really great question. So there's three different kinds of patterns that people fall into. There's patterns of focus. Like I said, what you focus on is what you feel. And so much of the time we get used to focusing on what doesn't work, what we don't like, what isn't pleasing to us. And then what we focus on is what we feel. And then we embody that. And then we attract more of that. And then we're like, oh my God, nothing's working out. And so we have to break that cycle. We have to interrupt that pattern. We have to train ourselves to see the good and operate with hearts full of appreciation and gratitude. The second pattern is patterns of physiology, how we're moving our body. So how many days are we going to the gym? How many days are we walking outside? How many days are we running, dancing, lifting weights, doing jujitsu, playing basketball, whatever it is? But our minds and our bodies are just very intimately connected. And truth be told, if you want to instantaneously elevate your vibration and change your state, the fastest way to do that is change your physiology. So if let's say you're having a bad day and like things, you're out of alignment, you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, weight of the world on your shoulders. One of the best things that you can do is just get up and get outside and start moving. And even if it sounds like, again, like a lot of this stuff can sound frivolous or silly or just pie in the sky, but even if you go to the gym or you go for a walk, or even if you start doing jumping jacks or high knees, or you put some music on, you phone a friend, just start moving different, start carrying yourself different. Like if you looked at a depressed person is going to have shallow breath, hunched over, low voice, versus somebody who is animated and passionate. They're going to be shoulders back, head up, voice, louder voice. And so we can very deliberately change these things in a blink of an eye. And in changing those things, just like you said, Jeff, like be the person you want to be, just like show up with that energy. But it's deciding to do it. And then it's like deciding to do it and then deciding to do it, actually doing it. And I think it's called Othello's Principle, which I learned about I forgot what book. It was a book I was reading about the subconscious mind. And it was something along the lines of when we fall into states of anger, when we're really upset or frustrated, it's almost like our mind wants to keep us there. And so like it's almost like it's like a magnet. Like when you're angry, when you're pissed off, you're only going to attract ideas or thoughts that are in that same at that same level of vibration or that same frequency, where, oh my God, then you're like, oh, I remember that. I remember if you're fighting with your boyfriend, well, I remember you said this and you said that, and that one day you did this and you pissed me off then. And like all of a sudden you're attracting all of these things. Even if you're totally wrong and you're like you misinterpreted something, the Orthello's principle states that our mind wants to keep us in these low vibrational states, and it will look for more evidence for us to stay there. And so once you and the only reason I know this is because I read it in a book, and then like 2 days later I experienced it, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that I just fell victim to what I read in the book. I lived it out loud. And I was not right. I was having a little disagreement with the boyfriend, and I was like, oh my God, you were right, I was wrong. And in my upset, in my frustration, even though you were right, I still wanted to stay angry. And I'm like, why on earth would I ever want to stay angry? Like, I don't want to live in a place of like chaos and anger. I want to live like in this high vibrational disc of fun and freedom and excitement and joy. So it's hard work pulling yourself out of these patterns that we're used to feeling. So like I said, patterns of focus, patterns of physiology, how we're moving our body. And that's why working out and having that routine where we're working out every single day, so that way we have that discipline built into our schedule, is super powerful. And then the third pattern is pattern of language. So the language that we use truly shapes the world as we perceive it, because we don't experience the world as it is. We experience the world that we focus on. And a lot of the times our language can really shift our perception or alter our perception of the world based on the language that we're using or the meaning that we're assigning to an experience that we've lived. And so when we talk about like who we're surrounding ourselves with, it's kind of like if you're at a dinner party and there's all these different groups of people, you stop to talk to this group of people, and then someone's like, oh yeah, Danny was in a car accident. And then the next thing you know, every single person in that group is talking about how someone they know was in a car accident or how they were in a car accident. It's like, that's a low vibrational conversation that you're choosing to participate in. Because when you're talking about a car accident, like that's an experience. And like, again, where your focus goes, your energy flows. What you talk about, speak about, think about is what you would attract. Every moment is a manifested miracle. And that's why people truly need to understand the power of their words, the power of their thoughts. So then at the same dinner party, you're like, not really feeling the vibe of this conversation. And then you walk it over to the next group of people, and they're talking about like their new podcast that they just launched, or like this new exciting business endeavor that they're starting off, or like something exciting that they're doing, or maybe even better, they just got back from Jamaica and they're like, oh my God, it was my first time there. The beach was perfect. The temperature, the people, the service, the hotel. And like, they just keep like, and so then while your focus is on a tropical paradise at the beach, guess what? The other people standing there are going to be like, oh my gosh, I love the Caribbean. Have you ever been to Fiji? I was just at Fiji. And then someone else be like, oh my God, there was this little, we were just in Venice. And then all of a sudden people are sharing their incredible experiences of traveling. And that's a conversation that you want to participate in, because it's creative, it's exciting. And again, whether you're choosing to participate in a conversation about car accidents or tropical vacations, it's your decision. So that's why I like to really encourage people awareness. Be aware of the people you're surrounding yourself with and the conversations that you're choosing to participate in, as well as the language you're using, not only with everyone around you, but the internal dialogue, that little voice in your head. 9 out of 10 times, that little voice is tearing us down, telling us that we're not good enough, that who are we to think that we're capable of this or that. And again, it's the awareness and taking your power back in that moment and being like, absolutely not. I will not tolerate this. I am good enough. I can, I will, I must. And really just showing up with that energy.
I love that. It reminds me of another thing I learned from you. I bet you didn't know that you taught me so much stuff, but I remember it was like early COVID. You commented on one of my Facebook posts and you just said, protect your bubble. And I didn't know what you meant at that moment. And then like, I thought about it a lot and I was like, no, I totally get it. Right. Like you're saying, like the part of, you have to watch out for what influences are coming into you. And, you know, I did some of this, you know, naturally. I stopped watching like cable news in the early 2000s because I was like, this stuff is terrible. Every time I watch it, I get irritated, I get
You
upset.
feel
Like
it.
it doesn't do me any
Yeah.
good, right?
Oh my,
But if I
yeah.
talk to Lucie, I feel happy. So what should I do? Talk to Lucie or watch cable news, right? Like obviously, I need to talk to Lucie. Like I need to surround myself with more people like that. And I mean, I didn't think that obviously back in 2007 or whatever when I gave up cable news, but like at the same time, like that's what you're talking about, right? Just protect the influences that are coming into your life.
Absolutely.
So before we started recording, and we do have to wrap up here in a minute, you were telling us about some of the really cool stuff you're doing. So you want to share briefly like what you're doing now and how people that are listening to the show can get a hold of you, things like that.
Yeah. So we actually have two really cool things that I'd love to talk about. The first one is we have a 16-week program that helps people very intentionally rewire their subconscious mind, transform their identity, so that way you can start taking massive action towards your goals today. And what we've done is we've condensed this 16-week program into a 2-hour training. And the 2-hour training is broken up into like a 6-part series. It's very user-friendly, very digestible. It can be found on our website, which is ultimatesuccessblueprint.com. And normally this training sells for $1,000. However, we do have a promo code for you and your listeners. The promo code is Last Life Ever.
Well, I don't know if they're going to be able to remember that promo code, but thank you for that. And with the promo code, they get it for $999 instead of $1,000, right? They get $1 off.
With the promo code, you can absolutely access and download this training, zero cost, totally
Oh,
for
well,
free.
I'm going to have to access and download the training myself because it sounds amazing.
It's pretty awesome. It's full of different strategies, different techniques, kind of like that toolbox that I was talking about on how to very intentionally raise your vibration. So if you're feeling out of alignment, if you're not feeling like yourself, if you're having a bad day, whatever the case may be, you just got a bad phone call from the boss and you're like, what can I do? It's everything from meditation to gratitude lists, all sorts of really powerful practices and techniques. And then the second thing that I wanted to share with you guys is we have a super awesome Facebook community. It is called Transformation Nation. And every single day we're pouring out just positive content to uplift and inspire people, really challenging people, pushing people to become the best versions of yourself, mentally, physically, financially, and spiritually. So that way you can show up as the best version of you, for your loved ones, for your family, and for your community at large. And one of the things I asked myself, I'm like, how can I serve? How can I give back? How can I positively impact people? And one of the things that I believe in the most is meditation. Huge proponent. Every single day, as soon as my eyes open, immediately start meditating. Your subconscious is most susceptible as soon as you wake up and right before you go to sleep when it's in theta state. So if there's one thing I would highly recommend everybody start implementing into their life that I can guarantee will garner incredible results and up-level every area of your life, it's meditation. And if you're not meditating, you totally should be. So how can I help? This is what I do. Every Friday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, I do a live gratitude meditation. So whether you're a seasoned meditator or you've kind of heard about meditating, you tried it, you're not really sure, but you want to start, I'd be happy to just help you along and kickstart your meditation journey. Transformation Nation and 10:30 a.m. every Friday. It doesn't matter where I'm at in the country. It doesn't matter what time zone I'm in. I'm always very intentional about being there for my Transformation Nation peeps.
Cool. And to be clear, that's 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, right? You're in
That's
the East
right.
Coast. Not everyone knows where you live. So
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I said Eastern.
you might have, but I just want to make sure we're clear, because
Yeah.
if people want to check that out, and I think they definitely should. I think the Facebook group's amazing, and I know you're amazing, and I really enjoyed having you on. Jillian, do you have anything else you want to ask Lucie before we wrap up? Or
I'm a little excited and overwhelmed, to be honest. I thought that was awesome information. Lucie, you interviewed yourself, which is the best kind of guest, the one that just gives us all that we need, knows exactly what we need, and I appreciate that. And with that, Jeffrey, I'd like to remind everybody to live the best version of their last life ever.
that sounds like an amazing idea, Jillian. I wasn't quite ready to hit the stop record button, so apologize for that. Everyone, we look forward to seeing you next time.